December 26, 1944, 08:30 hours. Outside Assenois, Belgium, 4 kilometers south of Bastogne. Oberfeldwebel Karl Richter's hands trembled as he scrawled his final combat report in the margins of a tactical map, knowing the message would likely never reach division headquarters. Through the frost-covered observation slit of his Panther tank, he had just witnessed something that violated every assumption about American military capability that had sustained German confidence through 5 days of offensive operations. American armored column approaching from the south. Speed and coordination exceeds all previous encounters. Estimate 40-plus Sherman tanks supported by mechanized infantry and artillery. They advance without pause despite our defensive positions. This is not retreat. This is systematic breakthrough. PATTON has arrived. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. His radio crackled with panic transmissions from infantry positions being overrun. Not the confused chaos of collapsing defenses, but the methodical destruction of prepared positions by an armored force that operated with industrial precision. In 48 hours, General George S. Patton's Third Army had pivoted 90 degrees from offensive operations in the Saar, marched over 100 miles through winter conditions, and smashed into the southern flank of Germany's last great offensive with overwhelming force. The German High Command had calculated that such a maneuver was theoretically possible, but practically impossible in winter conditions with the speed required. They had bet Germany's remaining armored reserves on that impossibility. As Richter watched American Shermans crush through his division's defensive line like a steel avalanche, he understood that calculation had been catastrophically wrong. This is the true story of how German forces in the Ardennes went from confident they would split the Allied armies and capture Antwerp to witnessing American armored mobility and logistical capability that rendered their offensive obsolete. The revelation would come through combat encounters so one-sided that survival itself became evidence of American military supremacy the Wehrmacht never anticipated. December 10th through 15th, 1944. The Ardennes sector, Belgium-Germany border. The Ardennes had earned its nickname the Ghost Front, a quiet sector held by inexperienced American divisions recovering from combat or newly arrived from the States. For the Wehrmacht, it represented the last opportunity to achieve strategic victory in the West before Allied numerical superiority became insurmountable. Oberst Heinrich Müller, commanding officer of the 26th Volksgrenadier Division, received his operational briefing on December 10th. His division, along with 2 SS Panzer divisions and 3 other infantry divisions, would spearhead Wacht am Rhein, Watch on the Rhine, the code name for Germany's final offensive gamble. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, like this video, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. His diary entry from that evening, preserved in the Bundesarchiv, reveals the combination of hope and desperation that drove the offensive. The plan is audacious but achievable. We attack through the Ardennes where American defenses are weakest, green troops holding extended positions. Initial breakthrough will be achieved by infantry divisions. The panzer divisions will then exploit, driving west to cross the Meuse River and ultimately capture Antwerp. This will split the American and British armies, create a strategic crisis, and potentially force negotiated peace. Success depends on speed and weather. We must reach the Meuse before American reserves can respond. Winter weather will ground Allied air power, negating their greatest advantage. Intelligence assessment assures us American armored reserves are committed in the Saar and cannot redeploy quickly enough to stop our advance. The intelligence assessment was partially correct. American forces in the Ardennes were indeed thinly spread. Weather would indeed ground Allied aircraft for crucial days. But the critical miscalculation concerned American operational mobility, specifically the speed with which George S. Patton's Third Army could disengage, pivot, and counterattack. Hauptmann Werner Vogel, commanding a Panther company in the 2nd Panzer Division, shared the optimism during pre-attack preparations. We have been promised 600,000 liters of fuel, sufficient to reach the Meuse. Our Panthers outclass American Shermans in direct combat. The men's morale is excellent despite our overall situation. This is our chance to change the course of the war. If we can split the Allied armies and capture Antwerp, we create strategic paralysis. Churchill and Roosevelt may seek negotiated peace rather than continue fighting while we still hold so much territory. The planning assumed American forces would react slowly. that winter would impede movement, that supply lines would constrain rapid response. Every assumption was built on experiences fighting Americans earlier in the war, before Patton's Third Army had fully demonstrated what American armored warfare could achieve. December 16, 1944, 0530 hours, German artillery opens fire. At 0530 on December 16th, 1,600 German artillery pieces opened fire along an 80-mile front. The barrage lasted 90 minutes, pulverizing American positions that had enjoyed relative quiet for weeks. At 7 a.m., 3 German armies, over 200,000 men, surged forward through morning fog. The initial results exceeded German expectations. American positions, held by inexperienced troops, crumbled under the assault. Entire regiments were surrounded and forced to surrender. Key road junctions fell within hours. By nightfall on December 16th, German spearheads had penetrated 8 to 10 kilometers into American lines. Lieutenant Franz Becker, commanding an infantry platoon in the 12th Volksgrenadier Division, wrote in his diary after the first day, "The Americans fought bravely in some positions, but they were overwhelmed. We achieved complete surprise. Their artillery was ineffective due to fog. We captured hundreds of prisoners, young soldiers who had never experienced combat. Many seemed relieved to be captured. By evening we controlled the road network east of St. Vith. The breakthrough is real. Tomorrow, the panzers will exploit."
The Americans are reeling, wrote Oberstmuller on December 19th. Their commanders don't understand the scale of our offensive. They're trying to hold isolated positions rather than establish coherent defense lines. If we maintain momentum, the Meuse is within reach. From there, Antwerp. The plan is working. But beneath the surface success, ominous signs were appearing. German units were consuming fuel faster than planned. American forces in Bastogne refused to surrender despite being surrounded. And most concerning, intelligence reported that Eisenhower had summoned his commanders to emergency conferences. December 19, 1944. SHAEF Headquarters, Verdun, France. While German spearheads pushed west, Supreme Allied Commander Dwight Eisenhower convened an emergency meeting at Verdun. Present were his key commanders, including Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery, General Omar Bradley, and General George S. Patton. German intelligence intercepted fragments of the conference through signals intelligence. What they learned should have terrified them, but the full implications weren't understood until too late. Eisenhower asked Patton, "When can you attack north to relieve Bastogne?" Patton's response entered military legend. On December 22nd with 3 divisions. The room fell silent. Patton was proposing to disengage from offensive operations in the Saar, pivot his entire Third Army 90 degrees, march over 100 miles through winter conditions, and attack into the southern flank of the German offensive, all within 72 hours. German intelligence officers who saw the intercept dismissed it as impossible bravado. Moving 3 divisions 100-plus miles and mounting a coordinated attack in 72 hours violated every principle of military logistics they understood. Their own planning for such maneuvers required weeks of preparation. German general claims he can attack within 3 days, read the intelligence summary distributed to German units. Assess as propaganda or unrealistic optimism. American logistics do not support such rapid redeployment. Continue offensive operations. American relief force, if it materializes, will not arrive in strength for 7 to 10 days minimum. This miscalculation, the belief that American forces operated under the same logistical constraints as German forces, would prove fatal to the Ardennes offensive. Hauptmann Werner Vogel, whose Panther Company was bypassing Bastogne en route to the Meuse, recorded his reaction to the intelligence report. The Americans claim they will counterattack within days. Impossible. We've studied their logistics. They require extensive preparation for major movements. Even Patton, their most aggressive commander, cannot simply turn an army around and attack. Our southern flank is held by adequate forces. The real threat is the American forces to our north, not phantom attacks from the south that violate logistical reality. December 19th to 21st, 1944. Patton's impossible maneuver. What German intelligence dismissed as impossible, Patton achieved through preparation and American logistical supremacy. He had anticipated the possibility of German offensive action and pre-planned contingency operations. When Eisenhower gave the order, Patton's staff executed plans already developed in detail. The 4th Armored Division, fighting in the Saar, received movement orders on December 19th. Within 6 hours, combat operations ceased, units assembled, and the division began moving north. The 26th Infantry Division and 80th Infantry Division followed in sequence. American military police redirected traffic across hundreds of miles of roads. Fuel dumps were established along the route. Maintenance units prepared forward positions. Artillery units displace and move in coordination with armor. Over 133,000 men, 11,000 vehicles, and associated equipment pivoted 90 degrees and marched through winter weather. German reconnaissance units detected American movement on December 20th, but the scale remained unclear through fog and snow. Intelligence assessments continued to underestimate what was approaching. American forces moving north from Saar region, read the December 20th intelligence summary. Estimate 1 reinforced division, possibly 10,000 to 15,000 men. Arrival estimated December 26th to 28th. Southern defensive positions adequate to contain. The reality was 3 full divisions, over 133,000 men, with complete artillery and armor support, arriving December 22nd for immediate attack. German intelligence had underestimated American strength by a factor of 9 and arrival time by 4 days. Oberfeldwebel Karl Richter, positioned south of Bastogne with his Panther Company, first detected the approaching storm on December 21st. Aerial reconnaissance impossible due to weather, but our forward listening posts report massive vehicle movement from the south. The sound carries through the fog, truck engines, tank engines, thousands of vehicles moving in coordination. The Americans are coming in greater strength than intelligence predicted. Our company commander received orders to hold the southern approach to Bastogne against estimated American reinforcement, approximately divisional strength. When I told him what our listening posts reported, he radioed headquarters requesting clarification. Response: maintain position, intelligence assessment stands. December 22, 1944, 0600 hours. Patton's attack begins. At 0600, on December 22nd, exactly when Patton had promised Eisenhower, the Third Army attacked northward into the southern flank of the German offensive. The 4th Armored Division, spearheading the advance, hit German defensive positions with overwhelming force. Lieutenant Franz Becker, whose infantry battalion held positions south of Bastogne, experienced the opening barrage. American artillery opened fire at 0600 with intensity exceeding anything we experienced in Normandy. Hundreds of guns firing in coordinated patterns. The barrage walked through our positions with precision, destroying bunkers and command posts. Communication lines severed. Men buried in collapsed positions. At 0630, the barrage shifted forward. American tanks appeared through the fog. Not scattered attacks, but organized waves. Sherman tanks in company strength, supported by mechanized infantry in half-tracks. Our anti-tank guns destroyed several, but more kept coming. For every tank we killed, 3 more advanced. By 800, our battalion was shattered. Company commanders reported 60 to 70% casualties. We withdrew towards secondary positions, but American armor bypassed our strong points, striking towards Bastogne directly. This was not reconnaissance in force. This was breakthrough operation by major armored formation. Hauptmann Werner Vogel's Panther Company, positioned to block the southern approaches, engaged American armor throughout December 22nd.
We engaged the American column at 0900 from hull-down positions. My company destroyed 11 Sherman tanks in the first engagement. Excellent results. But the Americans absorbed these losses and continued advancing. When we displaced to alternate positions, American artillery targeted our new location within minutes.
Their forward observers coordinate with devastating efficiency. By afternoon, we had expended 70% of our ammunition and lost 4 Panthers to American tank destroyers, high-velocity 76mm guns that penetrated our side armor. The Americans employ combined arms tactics superior to anything we've faced. Tanks, infantry, artillery, and air support, when weather permits, all coordinated through advanced communications. Received orders to fall back to defensive line 3 kilometers north. Our mission? Delay American advance for 48 hours minimum. Looking at the forces advancing toward us, I doubt we can hold 48 minutes against coordinated American assault. December 23rd through 25th, 1944. The drive to Bastogne. Over 3 days, Patton's forces advanced 40 kilometers through prepared German defenses, winter weather, and difficult terrain. The speed of advance shocked German commanders, who had calculated their southern flank could hold for a week minimum. Oberst Heinrich Müller, commanding the 26th Volksgrenadier Division tasked with defending the southern sector, filed increasingly desperate reports. December 23rd, 0800 hours. American forces advancing on multiple axes. Estimate 2 divisions in contact with our positions. Request immediate reinforcement to hold southern flank. December 23rd, 1400 hours. Defensive line penetrated in 3 locations. American armor exploiting breakthrough. My division suffering 40% casualties. Cannot hold without armored support. December 24th, 0900 hours. Division combat effective strength reduced to 3,000 men from original 12,000. American advance continues despite our resistance. They absorb casualties and maintain momentum through superior numbers and logistics. Recommend immediate withdrawal to avoid complete destruction. The reports revealed the fundamental difference between American and German operational concepts. German forces fought for terrain, establishing defensive positions and holding until ordered to withdraw. American forces fought for momentum, bypassing strongpoints and maintaining constant forward pressure. Oberfeldwebel Karl Richter's Panther Company exemplified the German dilemma. December 24th. We hold a crossroad south of Bastogne that American armor must pass to relieve the garrison. Our 6 remaining Panthers are well positioned, but the Americans don't attack the crossroads directly. They bypass it through adjacent terrain, engaging us with artillery and tank destroyers while their main force flows around our position. We can hold the crossroads, or we can maintain contact with adjacent units, but not both. When we withdraw to avoid encirclement, the Americans immediately occupy the position we fought so hard to defend. They don't fight for terrain, they fight to maintain advance. Different doctrine, and in mobile warfare, theirs is superior. The psychological impact on German troops was devastating. For 5 days, they had advanced westward with high morale, believing they were winning. Now they retreated eastward against an opponent that seemed unstoppable, watching their offensive collapse. December 25th, 1944, Christmas Day. Christmas Day 1944 brought the clearest evidence of American logistical superiority. While German units were running critically low on fuel and ammunition, American forces maintained sustained operations with full supply. Lieutenant Franz Becker, retreating through the Ardennes, observed American supply operations firsthand. We occupied a hill overlooking an American supply route. Through binoculars, I watched their logistics for 4 hours. Endless columns of trucks moving forward with supplies, empty trucks returning south, fuel trucks, ammunition trucks, food trucks, all moving in organized convoys with military police directing traffic. What shocked me was the scale. We counted 400+ trucks in 4 hours on one road. The Americans must have thousands of trucks in their supply system. Meanwhile, our fuel allocation today is 20 liters per vehicle, enough for 15 kilometers. The Americans have unlimited fuel while we run dry. The Americans advance with their logistics. Their supply trucks follow immediately behind their tanks, sometimes in artillery range. This is madness by our standards, exposing valuable supply vehicles to combat. But it works because they have so many trucks that losing a few means nothing. Our company requires 2,000 liters of fuel to operate effectively. We received 400 liters yesterday. The Americans apparently fuel their tanks from trucks that drive directly to their positions. They refuel during combat operations, something our logistics cannot support. This explains their sustained advance. They never pause for supply. German intelligence had understood American numerical superiority in tanks and men, but had underestimated the logistical capacity that allowed those numbers to be applied continuously. American forces could fight indefinitely because their supply system delivered resources faster than combat consumed them. 08:45 hours, Assenois, Belgium. The American column approached at 08:30. Lead tanks opened fire on our positions from 1,200 meters. Accurate fire despite moving. They have stabilized guns and rangefinders superior to ours. We returned fire, destroyed 2 Sherman tanks. More kept coming. Then the American artillery began. Not scattered fire, but rolling barrage that marched through our positions with precision. Behind the barrage, American tanks and infantry advanced in perfect coordination. When we shifted to alternate positions, American artillery targeted our new location within minutes. Their forward observers coordinate with devastating efficiency. At 09:45 hours, American tanks broke through our line. I watched them drive into Assenois, crushing obstacles, machine guns firing constantly. Behind them, more tanks, more infantry half-tracks, more supply trucks. The column never ended. They didn't just break through, they shattered our defense completely. My Panther was the last operational vehicle in my company. I received permission to withdraw. As we retreated, I looked back at the American advance. Tanks, trucks, artillery, infantry, all moving north in coordinated streams. This wasn't a battle. This was industrial warfare. We tried to stop an avalanche with our bare hands. At 16:45 hours, on December 26, 1944, lead elements of the 4th Armored Division made contact with the 101st Airborne Defenders in Bastogne. The siege was broken. The southern flank of the German offensive had collapsed, and the Wehrmacht's last great gamble in the west had failed.
December 27th, the 31st, 1944. The German retreat begins. With Bastogne relieved and the southern flank of the German salient collapsing, the Wehrmacht faced a crisis. The offensive that was supposed to reach Antwerp had been stopped 60 kilometers short of the Meuse River. Fuel shortages crippled panzer divisions. American reinforcements flooded the battlefield. The weather cleared, unleashing Allied air power. Oberst Heinrich Müller, whose 26th Volksgrenadier Division had been shattered south of Bastogne, compiled a situation report on December 27th that captured the scope of German defeat. Division strength reduced from 12,000 to approximately 1,800 combat-effective soldiers. Lost contact with regimental commanders, presumed captured or killed. American forces advancing from south with overwhelming armor and air support. Request permission to withdraw to defensible positions before division is completely destroyed. The offensive has failed. American response exceeded all intelligence predictions. Their Third Army achieved in 6 days what we calculated would require 3 weeks minimum. Patton's forces moved faster, hit harder, and sustained operations longer than German doctrine suggested was possible. We planned for American mediocrity. We encountered American excellence. The withdrawal order came on December 28th, but executing an organized retreat under American pressure proved nearly impossible.
Roads were clogged with destroyed vehicles. Fuel shortages meant many tanks and trucks had to be abandoned. American fighter bombers attacked anything that moved once the weather cleared. Hauptmann Werner Vogel, attempting to extract his surviving Panthers, described the nightmare of retreat under American air attack. December 29th. We began withdrawal at 0400 hours, moving in darkness to avoid American aircraft. At 0800 hours, the skies cleared. Within minutes, American P-47 Thunderbolts appeared. They attacked in waves, rockets, bombs, machine guns. We lost 3 Panthers to air attack before reaching any cover. The Americans coordinate air and ground forces seamlessly. Their fighter bombers communicate with ground units, receiving targeting information in real time. When we hide in wooded areas, American ground forces flush us out. When we move in open terrain, aircraft destroy us. There is no escape from American combined arms coordination. January 1st to 15th, 1945. American forces attack north and east. Patton's relief of Bastogne was only the beginning. Throughout early January, American forces, now including 1st Army attacking from the north and 3rd Army from the south, conducted coordinated offensives to eliminate the German salient entirely. The 4th Armored Division, having broken through to Bastogne, continued attacking eastward. The 6th Armored Division joined the offensive. 1st Army's 7th Corps attacked from the north. Over 500,000 American troops compressed the German salient from 3 directions. Lieutenant Franz Becker, now serving with a scratch infantry unit cobbled together from survivors of multiple destroyed formations, experienced the American offensive from inside the shrinking pocket. January 3rd. American attacks from all directions. Artillery fire continuous. American tanks appear wherever our lines weaken. We have no fuel for counterattacks, limited ammunition, and no air support. The Americans have unlimited everything: tanks, fuel, ammunition, aircraft, artillery, fresh troops. January 8th. Surrounded in Houffalize with perhaps 2,000 other survivors from various units. American forces closing from north and south. We were told to hold this position to allow other units to withdraw. We hold nothing. We simply haven't been overrun yet because Americans are methodically destroying every pocket of resistance. January 10th. Americans took Houffalize yesterday. We broke out during the night, moving east through American lines. Of the 2,000 defenders, perhaps 300 escaped. The rest killed or captured. The Ardennes offensive is over. We failed completely.
The statistics of the American counteroffensive revealed operational capabilities that exceeded German comprehension. Between December 22nd and January 15th, 3rd Army advanced 130 kilometers, destroyed or captured over 600 German armored vehicles, took 35,000 prisoners, and inflicted an estimated 55,000 casualties, all while maintaining sustained operations in winter conditions. Oberfeldwebel Karl Richter, whose Panther Company had been reduced to a single operational tank by December 28th, finally surrendered on January 12th near St. Vith. His final diary entry before capture summarized the German experience. "We fought well, our tactics were sound, our soldiers were brave, but we faced an opponent operating at an industrial scale we cannot match. The Americans don't just have more tanks, they have a system that delivers those tanks to battle with fuel, ammunition, and support faster than we can destroy them. We defeated individual American units, but never damaged the system itself. This is why we lost." January 1945 to May 1945. German POWs observe American logistics. For German soldiers captured during the Ardennes fighting, imprisonment provided education about the American military system that had defeated them. POW camps, supply depots, and transit facilities revealed logistical capabilities that explained American battlefield success. Hauptmann Werner Vogel, captured when his last Panther ran out of fuel on January 9th, spent 3 days at a temporary POW collection point before transport to permanent facilities. Those 3 days shattered his remaining illusions about comparative military capability. The POW collection point was actually an American supply depot, temporarily converted to hold prisoners. Through the wire, we watched American logistics in operation. Hundreds of trucks arriving daily with supplies, fuel, ammunition, food, spare parts, medical supplies, mountains of materials simply stacked in the open because they had too much to store under cover. What struck me was the waste. Americans discarded damaged equipment rather than repair it. A truck with engine problems was pushed aside and a new truck took its place. In the German army, we would spend days repairing that truck because we had no replacement. Americans simply replaced it because they had thousands more. I spoke with a captured American truck driver. He said his division had over 4,000 trucks. 4,000. My entire Panzer division had perhaps 300 trucks at full strength. The Americans use trucks like we use rifles. They're disposable, replaceable, unlimited. Oberst Heinrich Müller, captured January 14th when American forces overran his command post, was transported through Luxembourg to a POW facility in France. The journey provided a 200-kilometer education in American military capacity.
The roads were packed with American vehicles, moving both directions, convoys carrying supplies forward, empty trucks returning for more loads. Military police directed traffic at every intersection, fuel dumps every 50 kilometers. I counted supply convoys for 4 hours. Over 800 trucks passed us, moving toward the front. At a rest stop, I asked an American guard how they coordinated such logistics. He showed me a printed schedule, like a railroad timetable. Every convoy had a departure time, route, and arrival time. The entire supply system operated like a factory production line. This systematic approach to logistics is what defeated us. We relied on improvisation and adaptability. They relied on planning and overwhelming resources. The POW camps themselves demonstrated American abundance. Lieutenant Franz Becker, held at a camp near Reims, compared conditions to German military standards. We received 3 meals daily, more food than German combat soldiers received, hot water for washing, medical care for wounds. The Americans treated us according to Geneva Convention protocols, but more striking was the casual abundance. They fed 5,000 prisoners the same rations American soldiers received without apparent strain on their supply system. A guard explained that feeding prisoners was no big deal because American supply exceeded requirements. He said they threw away food daily because regulations required fresh supplies. They threw away food. We were starving in the Ardennes while Americans threw away excess rations. Post-war analysis quantified what German soldiers experienced subjectively: American operational superiority across every measurable parameter. Ardennes offensive statistics, December 16, 1944 to January 25, 1945. German forces. Initial strength, 410,000 men, 1,400 tanks or assault guns, 2,600 artillery pieces. Final casualties, 100,000 plus killed or wounded, 700 plus tanks destroyed, 800 plus aircraft lost. Prisoners taken, 110,000 plus. Territory gained, maximum 60 kilometers westward penetration. Territory retained, none, driven back to start line. Strategic objectives achieved, 0. American forces. Peak strength committed, 610,000 plus men, 2,400 plus tanks, 4,000 plus artillery pieces. Casualties, 89,000, including 19,000 killed, 47,000 wounded, 23,000 captured or missing. Equipment losses, 730 tanks or tank destroyers. Third Army specific achievements. Distance marched, 100 plus miles in 48 hours. Time to attack, 72 hours from order to combat operations. Divisions committed, 6 divisions plus supporting units. Prisoners taken, 35,000. German casualties inflicted,
55,000 plus. Logistics comparison. Third Army Logistics, December 19th to January 15th. Trucks in supply system, 25,000 plus. Fuel delivered, 3.2 million gallons. Ammunition tonnage, 62,000 tons. Supply convoys, 1,200 plus per day during peak operations. Average supply delivery time, 18 to 24 hours from depot to front line. German logistics, same period. Trucks available, 8,000, most captured French vehicles. Fuel delivered, insufficient, chronic shortages throughout. Ammunition tonnage, 18,000 tons, severe rationing by January. Supply convoys, irregular due to fuel shortages and air attack. Average supply delivery time, 72 plus hours when delivery is possible. The numbers revealed systematic American superiority. Patton's Third Army alone operated more trucks than the entire German offensive force. American fuel delivery exceeded German consumption capacity by factors of 3 to 1. Artillery ammunition expenditure was effectively unlimited for American forces, while German gunners rationed shells. Beyond logistics, German analysis revealed American technical advantages across multiple domains that contributed to battlefield success. Communications. Hauptmann Werner Vogel, in post-war interviews, identified American communication superiority as crucial. American forces coordinate through radio networks far superior to ours. Every American tank had a radio, not just command tanks as in German practice. Their infantry companies had multiple radios. This allowed them to coordinate combined arms attacks with precision we couldn't match. When American units encountered resistance, they called for artillery support and received fire within minutes. When they spotted German armor, tank destroyers appeared within 20 minutes. This coordination required communications infrastructure we lacked. Our radios were less reliable, fewer in number, and easier to disrupt. Mobility. The Sherman tank, often criticized for inferior armor and firepower compared to German Panthers and Tigers, proved superior in the one characteristic that mattered most: reliability. Oberst Heinrich Möller's post-war analysis noted, "Our Panthers were superior in gun and armor, but they broke down constantly. Of 12 Panthers in a company, perhaps 8 would be operational on any given day. American Shermans were mechanically reliable. They might be destroyed in combat, but they rarely broke down from mechanical failure." In mobile warfare, reliability trumps technical superiority. Air-ground coordination. German soldiers universally identified American air power as devastating, but more significant was how that air power integrated with ground operations. Lieutenant Franz Becker, "When American ground forces communicated directly with aircraft, when we attacked, fighter bombers appeared within 15 minutes. When Americans attacked, aircraft bombed our positions immediately before ground assault. We had Luftwaffe support occasionally, but it never coordinated with ground operations the way American air power did." 1970s to 1990s, German veterans reflect on their opponent. As decades passed and the Ardennes battle became history, German veterans spoke with increasing candor about the American general whose army had shattered their offensive. General Major Heinz Kokott, retired, who commanded the 26th Volksgrenadier Division during the Ardennes, spoke at a 1979 symposium. "We knew Patton's reputation, aggressive, bold, sometimes reckless, but what we experienced exceeded his reputation. The speed with which he moved Third Army was militarily unprecedented. 100 miles in 48 hours, with 6 divisions maintaining coordination and supply. We calculated this was impossible. Patton proved us wrong through superior planning, logistics, and execution." After the war, I studied the operation extensively. Patton had planned contingencies for German counteroffensive. He had pre-positioned supplies, prepared movement orders, coordinated with adjacent commands. When the order came, he executed plans already developed. This wasn't improvisation, it was preparation meeting opportunity. We Germans prided ourselves on operational excellence. Patton demonstrated American operational excellence exceeded ours when backed by superior resources. He was the right commander with the right army at the right moment. Oberst Heinrich Müller, in a 1985 interview, acknowledged the comprehensive defeat.
The Ardennes offensive failed for many reasons: insufficient fuel, Allied air superiority once weather cleared, overambitious objectives. But the decisive factor was Patton's counteroffensive. If Third Army had required 10 days to respond, we might have reached the Meuse. If they had arrived piecemeal, we could have defeated them in detail. Instead, they arrived in overwhelming strength in 72 hours and attacked with coordination that shattered our southern flank immediately. This operational tempo, the ability to make major strategic adjustments in days rather than weeks, was something German military doctrine couldn't counter. We were fighting World War I tempo warfare against opponents operating at modern industrial tempo. Hauptmann Werner Vogel, speaking in 1992, addressed the psychological impact. Facing Patton's army in the Ardennes destroyed German soldiers' confidence in ultimate victory. We had believed superior training and tactical skill would overcome American material advantages. The Ardennes proved this wrong. The Americans didn't just have more tanks and trucks, they employed them more effectively through superior logistics, communications, and coordination. When we saw American supply convoys operating 24 hours daily, when we watched their tank infantry teams execute combined arms tactics flawlessly, when we experienced their artillery fire arriving within minutes of any request, we understood the war was lost. Not because we lacked courage, but because we lacked the industrial capacity and systematic organization that American military culture had perfected. Post-war military historians identified Patton's Ardennes relief operation as a landmark achievement in operational logistics. The feat of moving 6 divisions, 100-plus miles, and attacking within 72 hours became a case study in military colleges worldwide. What made it possible? Colonel Robert Allen, U.S. Army retired, Third Army logistics officer during the operation, explained in a 1981 memoir, "The miracle of Patton's relief of Bastogne was no miracle. It was meticulous preparation. We had studied the Ardennes sector as a potential German attack route. Patton ordered contingency plans developed in early December. When Eisenhower ordered the movement, we executed plans already complete. The key was American logistics doctrine: redundancy, flexibility, and overwhelming capacity. We planned for 20% greater requirements than calculated needs. We positioned fuel dumps along multiple routes. We pre-registered artillery fire missions. We established communications protocols. Nothing was left to chance." Compare this to German logistics, which relied on capturing Allied fuel dumps and using damaged French rail networks. Their logistics assumed everything would work perfectly. Ours assumed problems would occur and built-in capacity to overcome them. This philosophical difference, planning for success versus planning for inevitable problems, determined the campaign outcome. The motor transport achievement alone was extraordinary. Third Army's motor transport battalions moved 133,000 men, 11,000 vehicles, and associated equipment 100-plus miles through winter weather in under 60 hours. The operation required 23 million gallons of fuel consumed, 18,000 truck trips, 550,000 road miles driven, 0 major traffic jams despite moving entire divisions on limited road network, continuous 24-hour operations, maintenance support maintaining 90+% vehicle availability. German logistics could not have achieved 1/10 of this operational tempo. Statistics and logistics obscure the human cost of the Ardennes campaign. For German soldiers, the failed offensive meant death, wounds, or captivity at devastating rates. Oberfeldwebel Karl Richter's tank company entered the offensive with 14 Panthers and 70 men.
By January 12th, when he surrendered, 11 Panthers were destroyed or abandoned, and 52 men were casualties, 74% losses in less than 4 weeks. His post-war reflection captured the human tragedy. We went into the Ardennes believing we could change the war's outcome. We were told American forces were weak, that winter weather would ground their air power, that surprise would give us decisive advantage. All lies or miscalculations. I lost friends, men I'd fought beside for 3 years. They died attacking positions we couldn't take, defending positions we couldn't hold, retreating from an enemy we couldn't escape. We fought bravely, but futilely. The men who died in the Ardennes died for an offensive that was doomed before it began because our high command didn't understand what Patton's army could achieve. Lieutenant Franz Becker survived the campaign but bore psychological scars. I survived through luck, not skill. I was captured rather than killed, but I'll never forget watching American armor roll through our positions like we didn't exist. The helplessness of fighting an opponent you cannot hurt, cannot slow, cannot stop. We were brave soldiers with inadequate weapons fighting a mechanized juggernaut. Courage didn't matter. Only industrial capacity mattered. The failure of the Ardennes offensive accelerated Germany's collapse. Resources committed to the attack, 150,000 casualties, 800-plus panzers destroyed, fuel reserves exhausted, could not be replaced. When the Soviets launched their winter offensive in January 1945, German forces on the Eastern Front lacked reserves to contain the breakthrough. General Major Heinz Kokot's assessment: the Ardennes offensive was Germany's final strategic reserve committed to an operation with minimal success probability. When it failed, we had nothing left. The Eastern Front collapsed in January because divisions that should have been there were dead in the Ardennes. Patton's relief of Bastogne didn't just save one town. It destroyed Germany's last offensive capability and hastened final defeat. American forces, conversely, demonstrated they could absorb a major surprise offensive, respond within days, and defeat it decisively, while maintaining operations on other fronts. This operational flexibility, the ability to shift major forces rapidly between sectors, proved a decisive advantage. 50th Anniversary Commemoration, Bastogne, Belgium. On the 50th anniversary of the Ardennes campaign, veterans from both sides gathered in Bastogne for commemoration ceremonies. Over 300 German veterans attended, meeting former American opponents in the town they had fought so desperately to capture and defend. Hauptmann Werner Vogel, retired, then 79 years old, met Colonel Bruce Clark, U.S. Army retired, who had commanded armored forces at Bastogne. Their conversation, recorded by historians, reflected the mutual respect combat had created. Clark: "You gave us hell for a week. We didn't know if we could hold until Patton arrived." Vogel: "We fought hard, but once Patton came, we knew it was over. Your Third Army moved faster than we thought any army could move. That speed decided the battle." Clark was something special. But he had the tools, the trucks, the fuel, the organization. Could your generals have done the same with our resources? Perhaps, but that's the point. You had the resources and the doctrine to employ them. We had courage and desperation. In modern war, that's not enough. Oberst Heinrich Müller delivered the keynote address for German veterans. "We came to Belgium 50 years ago as young soldiers, believing we could win. We failed, not from cowardice or incompetence, but because we faced an opponent whose organizational and industrial capacity exceeded ours in every dimension." Patton's relief of Bastogne demonstrated what American military culture could achieve: rapid strategic response, sustained operations, overwhelming logistics, and operational tempo we couldn't match. We learned through defeat what historians now teach: modern warfare is won through systems, not just soldiers. To our American former opponents: "You defeated us fairly through superior capability. You taught us that courage alone cannot overcome systematic disadvantage. These lessons helped rebuild German military thinking in the post-war era. We honor your victory and thank you for the generous peace that followed. Patton's relief of Bastogne entered military legend as the paradigm of operational flexibility and decisive leadership. The feat of pivoting 6 divisions 90 degrees and attacking within 72 hours has never been matched at similar scale. Modern American military doctrine still studies the operation as exemplar of contingency planning enabling rapid response, logistics as foundation of operational success, combined arms coordination at Army level, leadership creating organizational culture of aggressive action. For German military historians, the Ardennes campaign and specifically the American response forced fundamental reassessment of Wehrmacht capabilities. Post-war German military development emphasized logistics, communications, and systematic organization over the operational art focus that dominated Wehrmacht thinking. The lessons extended beyond military doctrine. The Ardennes campaign demonstrated that industrial capacity, properly organized and employed, determined modern warfare outcomes more than tactical brilliance or soldier courage. This reality shaped Cold War military planning and continues influencing defense policy. Oberfeldwebel Karl Richter's final published reflection in 1998, shortly before his death, summarized the German veteran perspective. I entered the Ardennes as a confident panzer commander, believing German operational excellence would overcome American material superiority. I left as a prisoner who understood that modern warfare had evolved beyond what German doctrine comprehended. Patton's army didn't just defeat us, it demonstrated a new form of warfare based on systematic logistics, rapid operational tempo, and industrial-scale coordination. We fought World War I battles with World War II weapons. The Americans fought with World War II concepts we hadn't fully grasped. The greatest legacy of the Ardennes is not Patton's legend, though that's deserved. It's the lesson that victory in industrial-age warfare requires not just brave soldiers and skilled commanders, but systematic organization of overwhelming resources delivered with speed and precision. The Americans mastered this. We never did. That's why we lost. Today, the forests of the Ardennes stand peaceful. Memorials mark where German and American soldiers fought through the winter of 1944 to 1945. At Bastogne, the Martyson Memorial honors all who fought there, German and American alike. But the greatest memorial to those who fought is the enduring lesson their sacrifice taught, that in modern warfare, the side that best organizes and employs its industrial capacity will prevail. Patton's army proved this truth in the winter forests 50 years ago. The lesson remains valid today.